Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining me. I'm Tim Laskus, and you're listening to The Tim Laskus Show, episode 65. Are you often wondering why your website is not at the top of the Google page when you do your kind of searches? Well, you probably don't have the right keywords. Longtail Pro is the answer. Longtail Pro will help you find the best and most searched keywords on Google so that you can erase all that guessing to help escalate and shoot your website right up to the top. Because if you're on page 568 of whatever people are searching, guess what? They're not going to find you. But Longtail Pro will help you to recognize what are those key words that are going to put you to the top. So they have affordable plans starting at only $25 a month, and you get about 10,000 keyword searches. That's pretty incredible. And they also have a free 7-day trial. So go to timlaskus.com/resources and click on Longtail Pro. My other sponsor of today's episode is Bluehost. Hey, if you're looking for a company to be a host for your website, look no further because Bluehost is there and they specialize in hosting for WordPress sites. So starting at only $3.95 a month. What? That is so cheap. They offer free site builders, free domain, one-click WordPress install, 24/7 support, customer support, which I always need, and a 7-day free trial. In addition, they'll give you a 30-day money-back guarantee. If for any reason you're not satisfied, head over to timlaskus.com/resources, click on Bluehost and Longtail Pro. Now, on to today's featured guest, who is Cloris Kylie. Cloris, this is just a wonderful episode because it will air on July 28th of 2017, and the day after tomorrow, after listening to this, when it airs, is July 29th, which would be my dad's 67th birthday. Unfortunately, he passed away back in 2012, and there's kind of a real connection between today's guest and my dad and someone she talks about, who is Wayne Dyer. Wayne Dyer was a friend of Cloris Kylie's, and he really touched her life and just changed it, and it really inspired her to write her book and do lots of amazing things. My dad was also a big fan of Wayne Dyer. He had all of his cassette tapes and books. Cassette tapes, yeah, that tells you how far back that goes that he was listening to Wayne. And then also more recently, he had some of his DVDs and CDs and whatnot. And so, I just want to dedicate this episode, to my dad. And if all of you out there listening, if your father or mother is still alive, just go and give them a big hug and a kiss, because you don't know how long they're going to be around. And man, we just got to take care of those around us. Always tell them that you love them. But anyway, let's go on to today's guest, who is Cloris Kylie. She's a coach for entrepreneurs. She's a consultant and author. She's this podcast host, and she does a wonderful thing. She's also been on EO Fire with John Lee Dumas. And she helps clients kind of attract the right types of clients and build their businesses to where they want to be, to where they have the lifestyle that they're looking for. So I know you're going to enjoy this episode. So just get ready, buckle in, and enjoy.
The Tim Laskus Show, in search of entrepreneurial gold. Tim digs deep into the minds of his guests. Entertaining, down to earth, and informative. Now, here's your host, Tim Laskus.
Hey, Cloris, thanks for joining me today.
Well, thank you, Tim. Such a pleasure to be here.
Hey, I am honored to have you on the show. You were telling me that you're a real outdoors person and that you love going on hikes and you're willing to wrestle a bear if need be. Is that true?
Well, I do have some survival skills. I used to love the show called Fat Guys in the Woods, where people would survive in the wilderness without anything, just with their bodies. Basically, they didn't have any. They had to get water and shelter and something to eat. So I do know, based on the show, how to survive in the wild.
Hey, were you on that show Naked and Afraid?
I thought about it, but I was too busy with the business, so I didn't.
You really thought about it? Is that true? Wow, there's no way I would do that. First of all, I wouldn't survive, and second of all, I'm just too bashful. There's no way I would take off my clothes for the world. But anyway, well, Cloris, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself professionally. What are you currently working on?
Well, I'm actually working on influencer marketing because that's the way I've grown my business, Tim. And, it's interesting how, and you as an entrepreneur, you know how it is. Like our businesses are always evolving and growing and changing. So I've been an entrepreneur for many, many years. And what I first started doing was to be an academic coach and tutor. So I would help high school students, college students who were going to that next level, whether it was college or grad school, and I would support them through the whole process. So helping them with standardized testing, then college applications and essays and interviews. So that morphed into actually career coaching, and then into what I do now, which is to help entrepreneurs attract the right clients by leveraging existing audiences, connections with influencers. That's what I do.
Wow, that sounds exciting. And so you started out helping high school students and also helping people, who are in graduate school. I certainly could have used your services while I was a grad student. Where were you? Where have you been? I was struggling on my own, Cloris. I didn't have you there.
I know you have a PhD, but you can always go back to school and get another one.
Oh God, no! Please, I am so against. I'm an adjunct professor at the university. I teach in graduate programs, and I meet students who have like 2 and 3 masters, and I'm like, "What are you doing? Quit doing that. Going into debt. You're not going to make any more money with 2 masters over 1. Just go start something." No, I do not want to go back to school. I don't have the patience, the time. No way. I could teach others, but I'm not going through it myself.
But some people are afraid of going into that, the real world in quotations. And I remember this man who actually was going for his PhD when I was going for my MBA, and his nickname was Physics Phil. And Physics Phil had been studying for, I think it was over 10 years, and he would never end. He would always find something else to research, and he had been an eternal student. So yeah, that happens.
Yeah, they're out there, and well, it's kind of a catch-22 because if they stop going to school, then their student loans are going to be coming due, and they're going to have to start making payments. But as long as they're in school, they can kind of keep kicking the can down the road. But little do they know that big payment continues to rise every time they borrow more and more money. So
That's right.
it's not a good position to be in for sure. Now, we were talking a little bit earlier that you have been, I guess, a real big fan and a follower of the late and great Wayne Dyer. What is your connection with him, and how did you meet? And tell the listeners a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely, Tim. And it's interesting because when I first read Dr. Dyer's book, Your Erroneous Zones, when I was a teenager, I don't know how I saw this book because it had been published for a while already, but I just got a hold of it and I read it. And it really changed my perspective on, my relationship with other people and how I was always kind of like not questioning any rules or anything that people told me. I had always been, like a little teacher's pet. And at that point I said, wait a minute, there are all these things that I do, even though maybe they don't resonate with me that well. And I don't want to be manipulated by people. And, it really changed the way I saw the world and at a young age. And I continued to read his books. I said, let me see what else he has published. So I kind of started to read all his books. And, I had his teachings in the back of my mind. So then later on in life, when I went through a really rough time with the end of my marriage, I thought of Dr. Dyer. I said, oh my God, I have to, really get a hold of my life. And I went back to his books and I reread them. And, I kind of saw his teachings in a completely different way. And they impacted me in such a strong way that I decided to write my own book based on his teachings to help people who were going through the same or a similar challenge. So I wrote this book. I was so inspired. I wrote this book in about 3 months. And of course, I let him know. And he was really flattered by it and, really appreciative that I had dedicated the book to him. So we started to create this relationship. And then I helped him as, he injured his back. So I would send him a book on how to heal his back. And I think that gesture, though, when I helped him with his back, kind of like made him see that I was really a supporter, and he appreciated me even more. So he actually, called me up one day out of the blue, which was a huge surprise. And, we just started to have these conversations and exchange letters and so forth. And, he really helped me overcome this. But not only that, because as I learned more about him and his life and his business as an author, I became inspired to do the same, because I had this book now and I needed to promote my book. So I started to learn the methods that he had used to promote his book. I reached out to other people who had done online marketing, and that's how slowly but surely I ended up doing what I do. I started my podcast, I connected with other authors, I grew into this online marketing thing, and then that's how I am where I am today. It's really interesting how life works.
Well, it sounds like, you're kind of where you started with high school students is very similar to Wayne Dyer, because I think he was a high school teacher for a while in Detroit, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was a high school teacher. Then, of course, he taught college, and he was a teacher. When you asked him, what do you do? What are you? He said, I'm a teacher. That's who I am. Yep.
Wow. Now, what was he really like when you had these, personal conversations with him? I've seen him on, on television, and I've listened to his tapes and seen his videos, and I watched the movie The Shift, which I love. What was he like one-to-one?
It was exactly the same way. And I think that's so important to him, like as we grow as people and in our businesses, to really be the same way everywhere we are. And if that's not possible, there's something that is lacking, though, that we're not aligned with our true values in what we do. And when I talked to him, he was exactly the same as you would hear him on a tape recording, or a TV show or whatever. He was always like the funny guy, always finding a way to lighten up and to laugh and to look at life in a way that would always lead you to feeling good. Like I remember one day I called his cell phone, and this was his voicemail. He said, "This is Dr. Wayne Dyer you have reached, and I want to feel good. So if your message is intended to do anything other than that, please call Dr. Phil. Thank you." That was his message.
I love that. Well, I read that he was a big, or big friends, or close friends with Deepak Chopra, and inside heard even some of their recording some of their interviews and stuff, and he just was just a wonderful individual, and he was gone way too soon.
Yes.
I mean, so many people were touched by him, and I know he had a big family. How many children does he have?
Yeah, well, he had 8 children. And, the interesting thing is that he was kind to connect me with his daughters, Sage, Serena, and Sky. So I had 3 daughters on my podcast, on my show. It was interesting to see how the 3 of them, at least, I haven't met the other children, but the 3 of them have the same attitude about life. Because of course, they grew in such a family, and they say, we grew in a weird family, and again in quotation marks, because, we learned that we had to follow our own path, that we really had to stand up for what we believed, and that's how they grew. And, they're the happiest people, and it's just incredible to see how, how they are making their mark in the world. And Sky is a singer, and beautifully, she sings beautifully, and Serena has another message of empowerment. So that's what happens. He really is leaving a mark also through his children.
Wow, it sounds like I'm gonna have to go and listen to that episode. It sounds like they're amazing, just like him. Now you're doing so much right now as you're an author, you're a podcast host. You're in the marketing and coaching and training for entrepreneurs and all this good stuff. Can you provide a couple of tips for some of the listeners out there who are in the kind of the beginning stages of entrepreneurship, or on the sidelines ready to jump in? What would you kind of throw out to them that would be helpful?
What I would say, that there's one thing you can remember, is that no matter what your business, you are in the business of creating and nurturing relationships. I mean, that's what it comes to. And it's important that you start creating that network from day one. And once you decide who you want to serve, which is, of course, is an essential part of building your business foundation, then you'll know exactly who the right people to connect with are, and then you just have to start become invisible to those people, and then delivering value, always with that mindset of, how can I help this person? How can I be of value? And then eventually that value will come back to you. But if you have that mindset, and if you start to build that network of connections from day one, then you'll see the results once your business matures, once you're ready, you have your products and your programs out there.
Gotcha. Yeah, you really have to take care of those relationships, and because you can't do it alone. So many people kind of think that they're going to do it alone. Being an entrepreneur is about doing it alone. It's not that at all.
That is right. And, that's why I created this little program. It's called Niche Influencer Training, because I'm always talking about, you got to connect with influencers. So many people, when they hear that word, they think, oh, Oprah, I got to have my book promoted by Oprah, but it really isn't that. It's about connecting with people who have their own audience, and that audience is perfect for you, for your message. And it could be a coach or a trainer who has a group program with 15 people in it. And that's a perfect connection for you. You can help each other, leverage each other's expertise. It could be the leader of, an association or a local meetup. And it could also be a podcast host like you, Tim. So you are an influencer. So I help, or I invite people to see connections and to see influencers under that light, under a relationship that you can nurture, that you can help that person, that you have a value to give to that person. And then, yes, it's likely that you will get value in return from them.
Absolutely. Are there any books out there that really have inspired you as far as, for being an entrepreneur? Is there anything you can recommend to the listeners?
Well, actually, I've been using the Mastery Journal by John Lee Dumas. And, I was a little bit kind of reluctant to start. I said, this productivity thing, I know I have it down, because the book is about that. It's about mastering productivity, discipline, and focus in 90 days. So I said, I think I'm productive enough. I'm very disciplined. But I started to use it, and it actually has made me become much more productive, especially productive doing the right things. Because maybe, Tim, you have experienced this. You feel like, you're focusing on one thing, but it really is not helping you move your business forward. So then you kind of wake up and say, oh, I kind of wasted my time. Or you do a lot of little things that really don't add up too much. So you end up your day kind of replying to emails and really feeling that you haven't done much. That used to happen to me, and as I use this book, it's kind of helped me become very much more productive. And I'm actually finally writing my book. I wanted to write a book, and I'm finally making progress. So I'm getting there, and I'm excited about it.
Well, that's wonderful. I've heard so many great things about JLD's Mastery Journal, and it's just helping a lot of people kind of stay focused and stay on track and do those important things. And I call it spinning wheels. When you do all those little things, it really doesn't, it just kind of takes up time, but it doesn't actually move you forward. And it's just like kind of getting stuck in the mud. You get the pedal down to the floor, and the wheels are spinning, but you're not going anywhere. You're just spinning, but not making any progress. And so I think that Mastery Journal is like a great resource for people out there. Now, Cloris, when did you realize that you were an entrepreneur?
Well, you know what? It was something that happened gradually. And I think this happens to most people, because I've had a lot of people on my show and met a lot of entrepreneurs. And yes, they all have that. They said, it just happened gradually. And that's what happened to me, because when I went to school, got my MBA, I never expected to become an entrepreneur, really. I thought I was going to follow the traditional path and go into the corporate world, and just go up the ranks and eventually retire. I never really saw myself as a business owner, but just life kind of took me to that place. It's interesting. I had a corporate job, and I left it, which is a long story, but I left it because I wanted to get a job that was more aligned with marketing, which is what I like to do. So in the meantime, as I was looking for that new job, that's when a friend of mine said, my daughter is having trouble with calculus. Would you help her since you have more time? And, I'll pay you. And I said, wow, I guess that's fine. So as I started to work with this girl, and she got results, and she did well in her class, I said, this is actually a lot of fun. I think I'll do more of this while I get my job. And, slowly but surely I had all these students. And then I said, well, what if I start a business helping students and I learn more about the whole, process to get into college. And, so that's how things started. And that's when I started to see myself as an entrepreneur.
Wow. So it sounds like you just kind of stumbled into it and it just happened so slowly, like you described. And, it wasn't that you had just woke up one day and said, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm going to quit my job. I'm jumping in. I'm going to start doing my own thing. It wasn't like that at all for you.
It wasn't. I think it's a different experience for everybody, I guess. Some people have grown into a family of entrepreneurs, so they kind of expect to do that with their lives. They take their family business. Some people are just thrown into that just because life takes them that way. I guess it's a personal experience, so there's no right or wrong. Just do what feels right for you.
Yeah, I love that. Exactly. Because I think so many people are looking for, looking at other people and learning about their experience and go, oh, well, I just never really had that drive. I didn't have the lemonade stands when I was growing up. And, I wasn't, selling, my baby bottles when I was, 2 or whatever it might be, And so it just happens different for everyone. And so everyone has their own unique story. So I'm glad you brought that up. Now, Cloris, let's move into the dig round where I'm going to ask you some questions that are pretty quickly, if you could answer them. And the first is, what keeps you motivated?
I think it's my passion and burning desire to do what I do. And I know it sounds like cliche. It's like, oh yeah, the passion and so forth. But it's true. I mean, think about it. If you're doing something just because you want to make money, right? It's likely that when challenges happen, you'll give up. You'll be like, oh, I'm just going to move on to the next thing to make money, and then that doesn't work and you go on to the next. But if you have a clear idea of what you want for your life and you have that desire to help others, in my case, like I want to help entrepreneurs and it's my passion, then when something happens, when challenges come, when things don't work out, which will happen no matter where you are in your business, then you kind of, pick yourself back up and keep going, and that's the only thing that keeps you going. And once you have that idea, then when you think about it, you feel excited. And that's the way to know. Like when you think about you succeeding in your business and doing what it is that you feel like you're meant to do, you feel that little bit of excitement that you kind of smile just thinking about it. That's when you know you're on the right path. And that's really the only way to stay motivated in the long term. Otherwise, you're just going to give up. And again, that's a sign that you're probably not following the right path.
Yes, money and possessions will never keep you motivated. It's always an endless thing. You get one new car, and then you want another one, then another one, and you still feel empty, and you wonder what's going on. But for you, your passion is helping other people, to give back, to improve the lives of others, and that is just self-sustaining. It is intrinsic, it's deep within you, and it kind of gives you that fuzzy, warm feeling, I'm sure.
It does. It's just amazing to see, people who are starting their business and say, wow, I got it. Now I know what I'm going to do with my life. Or people who are actually on the brink of going out of business. And when they work with me, they start to see the light. They start to bring in revenue. And they feel like, oh my God, I'm going to leave a legacy for my children. And just hearing that and seeing that, that's what helps me, wake up every morning. And, sometimes I'm tired and yes, I might not feeling good, but I still do my work because it brings me joy.
Absolutely. Now, who do you look up to as a business leader?
Well, Tim, I love Marcus Lemonis. He's a host of The Prophet. I don't know if you watch that show. It's on CNBC. And Marcus is one of the smartest guys I've ever seen, really. And what he does, he goes and visits businesses that are struggling on that show, and then shows them how to fix whatever's wrong. It could be something with the people, the way they're treating their people, their processes. It could be their product, and he does it in a brilliant way by. He becomes a little bit of a psychologist, really, and fixes relationships within those companies, those small businesses. So I look at what he does and I say, wow, this is kind of like similar to what I'm doing a little bit with my marketing. I'm fixing the little broken links in the process and helping these people, achieve what they want.
Yes, I love that show too. And on the surface, it seems like, well, he's just kind of going in, he's going to look at their books and he's going to help them, they're making $1 and he's going to help them make $5 and, per widget of whatever. And it's not like that at all. It really is more relationship based. And I love that. It is almost like he's doing therapy with them. And you see him sitting down with, especially with these mom and pop businesses and the husband and the wife, they're just not communicating. And he's kind of the person in there who helps them kind of open up and peel back the layers, just as a psychologist would, to see the real issues going on in that business. And many times it's nothing to do with the actual service or product that they have, but it's with the people.
It's true. It's true. And he's not afraid to say it like it is. He's not there to make friends. He's there to help people. So, yes, at the beginning, it's a tough process. And that's something I admire. Being authentic, I think, is the only way to really be successful.
Yes. Now, you have to choose one of these, Cloris. Are you going to choose street smarts or book smarts? Which one's for you?
I choose street smarts. And, this is very different. If you had asked me the same question when I was in college or even grad school, I would have said, oh, book smarts. Of course, you have to know how to do things. But, now that I've matured and grown up, I understand that, no, like you really need to have that common sense to know what's the right path or the wrong path to follow. And yeah, knowledge you can get anywhere. I mean, you can just get a book or actually outsource and have somebody do something you don't know how to do. But that common sense, that business acumen that allows you to see what's your best next move, that is irreplaceable, really. And that's what allows you to be successful.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. Now, earlier you had shared that you went through a really difficult time with your divorce, and that was really challenging. What's been a specific time as an entrepreneur that's been mentally challenging, and how did you cope?
Well, every time I had to learn something new, a new tool, it was overwhelming. Like I remember when I was learning ClickFunnels, I would say first week, and the tool right now is much more user-friendly than it used to be. And I remember looking at this like, oh my God, I'm never going to learn this thing. And feeling like, okay, it's not going to happen. And asking people, okay, who can do this for me? Who can I hire to do this? Because I felt overwhelmed. And I think that, every time I've learned a new tool, it has been mentally taxing. Every time because there was one day actually, Tim, I created this program. And I thought it was going to be a hit, like, oh, this is going to be great. Everybody's going to want this program. But of course, I had made a huge mistake. I hadn't really created the program with an ideal avatar in mind. I wanted the program to be good for everyone, right? So that's a typical, beginner's mistake. And I remember when I launched the program and it failed, that was mentally taxing and stressful too. And it was so tough for me that I actually thought about quitting my business. I said, okay, this is it. I don't want to keep going. But of course, I had that desire, again, that burning desire to succeed. And eventually I got out of that funk. But, it wasn't easy. So I would say every time I have failed, every time I've faced something new, whether it is a software or something, that is taxing for sure.
Yeah. Would you agree that it's best to just get off of those negative thoughts? It's easy for us to kind of fall back on, oh, well, here we go again. I'm just not made out for this, or I'm just not going to, cut out for business, or I'm never going to be successful. And that's kind of an easy one to fall back on for almost all of us. But the real trick is to, okay, what do I need to do to fix this? And let that be your focus, and not focus on, oh, poor me, and all these negative thoughts that run through our minds.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, if you think about it, there are only two things in entrepreneurship. You either grow or you succeed. You learn or you succeed. That's it. There's no failure, right? It's either growth or to learn something from what happened, or then you succeeded and you keep going.
Yes, absolutely. What would you say has been your most fulfilling moment as an entrepreneur?
I would say every time I hear from one of my clients that they have achieved a result that they always wanted. And also, actually, it's interesting because I always remember this story. When I wrote that first book, that personal development book, I thought, people would use it and would help them, go through a separation, the end of their marriages and so forth. But then one day I got an email from a reader, and he said, Cloris, I read your book. I really would love to meet you in person. And he was located in Connecticut. He was local. So I said, yes, all right, I'll meet you. So we went to the Barnes & Noble, and this man comes and says, can I please give you a hug? You have really changed my life. And then he told me that thanks to the book, he had lost 80 pounds, and he was actually packing all his belongings and moving down to Florida because he wanted to start a new life. And he said, it's just thanks to you. And I couldn't believe it, really. I couldn't believe what he was saying to me. And I think that's one moment that I'll never forget.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you really made such a big impact, and that's the thing. We never know, until someone reaches out, and when they do, it's like, oh, this really supports, all my efforts, that why I'm doing this, that really, just kind of bolsters my why, and why do I keep doing this? And so that's a fantastic story. Well, Cloris, unfortunately, we run out of time, but before we go, where can people find you online, your website, your podcast, and all that great stuff?
Thank you, Tim, for the question. Yeah, you can reach me at ClorisKylie.com. So that's ClorisKylie.com. And you'll see all my resources. I have my influencer guide and a link to my show. Everything is there.
And the name of your podcast show, is it Magnificent Time for Entrepreneurs?
It's Magnificent Time, yes, because that's what I say. We've got to reveal our magnificence every single day.
Awesome. Incredible. Well, thank you, Cloris. You've been so great being on the show today, and I look forward to staying in touch.
Thank you, Tim. Same here.
Take care.
You too.
Want more entrepreneurial tips? Go to timlaskos.com.